Welcome back. I am now joined by Michael Potter, running for
Indiana House District 47.
the Duck. Why you? Why now?
So in 2 years ago, I ran for the first time. And for me, that was when they started talking about the Elite District and kind of said, hey, we're doing this giant district. We're going to use all this water and all these resources, and really didn't give people much of any say in that. Now, I mean, they're just now kind of starting building it. So it did take some time to get that passed, but begrudgingly, they're kind of, I don't know, stealing is the right word, but they're certainly using a lot of water, much thought to the locals. And I'm an environmental scientist. And so when I heard legislators talking about the LEAP district and the use of water and how water works in our environment, it was very obvious that they did not know what they were talking about. And I was about to say, it's not that I'm an expert. I kind of am. I've been doing environmental science for 25 years, and I'm a licensed geologist in Indiana. I should say it's not that I know everything about it, and but I do know that if we don't manage our resources well, we will use them up. And I think our history as a country and as habitants on this planet shows that we have a history of abusing the bountiful gifts that have been given to us and corrupting the system. And so I felt compelled to interject myself in there. It helped that my wife had run for an office locally, our town council previously. So we were starting to get engaged with the party again at the county level. And then I saw an uncontested race, and in a trend I think we continue to see now, we should not leave any uncontested seats. Somebody put your name in. I met a gentleman, Alan, last night. I wish I could give you Alan's last name and his house district. It's the one to my east. But he just jumped in on the last day because there was a uncontested seat. And he said, I'm not going to let that go. So contest all races.
Do you think that your background as a environmental scientist, geologist, will bring a new voice to the assembly?
I think so. We certainly have great environmental advocates in the Democratic Party in the General Assembly, but they probably don't spin things quite like I do and understand the depth of environmental involvement like I do, because I not only know the big picture, but I go out and I do air sampling. I've done air sampling at the indoor air level. I've done it at the community level. I've done it for occupational health on workers. I've sampled residential wells, regional groundwater wells. Done that by just pulling up bailers full of water at a time. So it almost becomes meditative because you just spend so much time. It's like kind of like fishing. You drop it down, you fill it with water instead of a fish, and you reel it back in, drop it down. Well, that's automated now through different pumps and softwares for water quality, but the same thing. You just you spend this time doing the sampling, and it gives you time to think, and you really become integrated with that data. And so again, while there's a lot of great advocates, there probably isn't anyone with the depth of sampling and kind of intimate knowledge of the systems. Yes, I think it would be a good voice, and I think it's a voice that's needed at the local, state, and federal, and global level for that matter.
There is a sudden rise, especially this year, that a new wave of progressive Democrats are running. What do you think caused that?
I would like to think my wife had something to do with that. Blythe Potter for Secretary of State, anyway. But it's like myself, my wife, you having a podcast. We kind of have reached, I have to say, Michelle Higgs running the Rural Summit. I definitely think the Rural Summit has been a big help. I think candidates, and I haven't talked to, you've talked to some new candidates this year. But I have to feel like it is a little safer to step in to run, knowing that the rural summit's got your back. It's safer for these rural candidates. And I'm like suburban. They've kind of gerrymandered it, so I do have the more rural areas of our suburban counties or donut counties. But there are people much more like rural, small town rural for their whole district, and I mean, I have enough population in 2 counties, but some people have like 4 or 6 counties that's so rural that to accumulate enough people. So jumping in and knowing that again, the Indiana Rural Summit, a resource, and maybe they've even talked to the summit or went to a summit event last year, and so they know that Michelle and the summit team are going to have their back as they step through this. And Michelle and I worked a lot on that together with you 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and it's amazing what she's done with that.
Very much so. It was a loss for our party
Mm.
for her not to be running, um, but higher things for her because she's focusing solely on the Rural Summit.
And I have to say, Michelle, if you're watching this, I noticed immediately from the day you said you were going to focus on the rural summit, that the impact of the rural summit increased. And I thought it was great, 2 years ago when we started all this, but immediately more people were coming in. She was able to spend more time reaching out to these communities and reaching out to these candidates and then providing resources. Now, like weekly, we're getting reading materials and videos and more social media posts. And yeah, like she was an excellent candidate for her area, and I expect that she may be back, depending on how the Rural Summit goes over these,
Mhm.
whatever many years. But I think she would be a great legislator, as she is a good organizer
At any level,
at any
be
level.
it
Yep.
state,
Maybe she'll just
federal.
jump in, to her local community
Yeah.
and do that. It's a little easier to manage with bigger things on the
Mhm.
her plate. So we'll see, but I am happy to use her as a resource right
Exactly.
now. And I think the other candidates involved in the Rural Summit are also happy.
I believe Rural Summit is probably one of the best things that was created out of 24.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just to have where local candidates, state candidates, federal candidates can all be in one place and learn about pressing issues, how to help with those issues, and how to better legislate once they're elected.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And as we talk on those calls once a week, and sometimes they're formal and we'll have a guest speaker, and then other times it's very informal and maybe like Super Bowl Sunday. We still held our meeting. I think there were 5 or 8 of us. It kind of fluctuated and people were in and out. I was a little late to the call. But it was very casual, and people had the game on in the background. Like, oh, did you see that play? But then you like kind of get to know people more, like, what do you do for the Super Bowl? What's your favorite thing to cook? And you just kind of get to know their backgrounds. And then when we do have the bigger like policy type talks, you kind of know where they're coming from. But it's a long way from, say, well, even between me and you, just on the edge of Morgan and Johnson County. I'm
mhm.
kind of central Johnson County, but there's nothing in between us but farmland, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't feel very connected.
Mhm.
And Michelle has used the Indiana Rural Summit to connect these candidates that are kind of separated by a wide space, which really makes you feel alone when you go run canvassing these
Yep.
farmlands and driving 3 miles to the next house, like, what am I doing? This is so disconnected. But then you get on that phone call on Sunday night and you hear that, we're all going through the same things. We're talking to the same type of farmers. They have the same type of issues. And so you start to not feel like, oh, what am I doing? Instead of looking at my county and being like, in Greenwood, they talk about different things.
Mhm.
And there's, different development and highways and school issues than say Trafalgar or Southern Shelby County. And so, yeah, it's much better to connect with a lot more rural candidates than it is, say, into northern Johnson County and then into Marion County. And it's just kind of a different politic, different process, and different needs for the community. And I'm glad we've kind of come up with a forum for us all to meet and feel much closer than being disconnected by hundreds of miles.
Exactly. Your race for State House is very near and dear to my heart because you mentioned Trafalgar. My daughter goes to Indian Creek. We may live in Morgan County. Our kid goes to
And
school.
Nineveh, Hensley, Jackson
Exactly.
Township.
So we are that weird township in
And
Morgan.
Nineveh, Hensley now is merged, and they're called
Yeah.
the Southern Township of Johnson County.
Really?
Well, that's how they refer to it when they
okay.
refer to the joint, but they still, there's one leadership group, but then they have like separate accounts for the two townships.
Okay.
Because township lines are just not going to go away. That's like ingrained in the map, in the very basic mapping of the country.
Mhm.
So it'd be really hard to be like, oh, we're going to erase a line and just call it one big township. I did ask, I actually went to the township board meeting 3 weeks ago. I hadn't been down to met with any of them, and I say township board meeting, the township trustee
Okay.
meeting. And they were great. They're doing great things. They sounds like they're doing the right things for township trustees. And hey, here's our budget. How are we going to spend it? These charities or groups or organizations help take care of people in our county. And that's what our goal is as a trustee. Besides coming to us directly and asking for money or support for hardship, they also support a lot of food pantries across their two townships, and even a little bit outside, because people will leave their township to go to a bigger food bank or church or wherever. So anyway, yeah, consolidated Southern Township of Johnson County is if they talk about the two together, that's what they call it.
So we've talked a lot about the Rural Summit, about the area. What makes you super passionate in life? Let's hear more about Michael.
No. I tend to really dig into things. When I find I can wander a bit, and then when I find something, I can get pretty hyper focused on it. Growing up, sports were always a big one, but it was sports in the sense of playing in the backyard.
Mhm.
I never played club sports outside like the school programs or our little league football program in the Center Grove area, and Little League Baseball. And then talked a little bit next door here about I spent my summers in New Jersey, which was pretty unique for an Indiana kid. I didn't go to the Indiana State Fair until it was probably like 18 or 20 or something like that, because I spent all my summers on the East Coast with my parents' extended families. And and I got to do some surfing out there, and I'd come back with like one of my favorite pair of pants were like kind of a pale green, like Easter green, pale green, pastel green pants from the surfing brand Gotcha. And I'd have like Gotcha or Vans on, and surfing t-shirt from Quicksilver. Now is kind of a pretty like known brand, but 30
Back then
years
it
ago,
wasn't, yeah.
Quicksilver, what's that? So I was saying I could get pretty focused on whatever those things are. Model cars, I did a lot of model cars, remote control cars. Very close to like being an engineer. I think I use some of that engineering in my everyday work as a environmental scientist, because we do the testing and everything, but then we have to come up with solutions to fix any impacts, and a lot of that becomes engineering and working with systems to pump the water out, to treat it, and get it back in the ground. So yeah, I guess I kind of dive into things. What's funny now is I love earth science. It's kind of everything, and it's sort of the baseline under everything I do, and talk to my kids about. And but I haven't been camping in like 30 years, which is crazy. We
Yeah.
did do a little stint in yeah, in a motorhome. My wife's parents on a campground. But that's I don't consider that camping. So
Yeah, it's a tent with
a tent, maybe, I like trunk camping. That's certainly easier. You can bring a lot more drinks and food and things. But I've done a share of like backpacking too.
yeah,
That's definitely hard to do with young kids.
and the fact that, we're not spring chickens anymore.
I talked last night a little bit about, in grad school, we'd go hiking in the mountains of California and literally fill our backpacks with rocks.
Yeah.
That's what we did. We're geologists. So some of them might be to study. And so we have notes on the rocks. Others are just like, oh, this one's really nice. I want to put it in my garden. And that backpack full of rocks gets heavy. I'm glad I don't do that as much as I used to. But I try to keep myself in shape. Let that go a little bit with my young, who's now 5. I think that was about the time with my older 2 is where I kind of got back into exercising. And I know this summer she'll be back on her bike and going to a bigger bike. And so my wife and I have talked that like we're gonna either need to like, run faster, or we're gonna need to up our biking. Get our bikes up into shape, and our helmets. And helmets when we were kids are like they like didn't exist or something. Like,
I remember skateboarding and there were no pads anywhere.
Yeah.
So, if people want to learn more about you and possibly donate to you, where can they find you?
You can find me at Friends of Michael Potter. I got all platforms. My email is friendsofmichaelpotter@gmail.com. The website is friendsofmichaelpotter.com. And then all the social media is, find me at Friends of Michael Potter. And if you see me as Michael Potter, that's kind of my personal account, and you're welcome to message me there and chat there. And sometimes I get confused of which one I'm on, but I tend to keep on the same message. I really don't worry about like, oh, I'm not putting out the right messaging. I try to be authentic in either venue, and so it really, catch me where you can.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Derrick.
Have a good one.
You too.